In this lesson, we're going to talk about graphing linear inequalities instead of equations. Okay, so the big difference there is that you're going to have these symbols instead of just an equal sign. And those symbols mean a couple of different things. First of all, they're going to tell you what type of line you need. Some symbols are going to have you use a dashed line, and some of them are going to have you use a solid line. Those symbols are also going to talk to you about shading. So inequalities have multiple answers. In fact, they have usually an infinite number of solutions. So instead of just naming all of them, we are going to shade the area where all of those solutions exist. Okay? Now, usually you want your inequalities to be in slope-intercept form. Okay, so if it's ever not in slope-intercept form, you can easily change it by solving for y. So you're going to graph these just like any other line where m is your slope and b is your y-intercept. Okay, now if you ever get lost, you can go back to this process and follow the steps. So let's jump in and look at example 1. Okay, I have a couple of things in your handout for you to help you through the process. So first, let's start with our y-intercept and our slope. What is our y-intercept? It's -4. What is our slope? 2/3. So then let's go make our dots. So I'm going to start at my y-intercept of -4. So I go to the y-axis and I'm going to make a dot at -4. So that's down here. And then from there, I'm going to go up 2 and right 3. So up 2, right 3. Up 2, right 1, 2, 3. Up 2, right 3. And I can also go backwards from my y-intercept, go down 2 and back 3. And it'll look like that. Okay, so now let's look at our symbol. Okay, so looking back at your first page, that symbol is just a greater than, not an equal to. And greater than means I'm going to have a dashed line. So this is going to be a dashed line. So I'm going to make sure that it is not a 100% connected line. We've got arrows on each end. And then here's the sometimes tricky part. Okay, I want you to pick a spot somewhere on your graph. So let's pick the point 0, 0. Do you see how that point is above our line? We're going to test it with our inequality to see if it satisfies that inequality. So I'm going to say instead of y is greater than 2/3 x minus 4, I'm going to say 0 is greater than 2/3 times 0 minus 4, because that point is 0, 0, right? So 2/3 times 0, that will cancel. So is 0 greater than -4? Yes. So we're going to shade that side of the line. Is that side above or below? It's above. So we shaded above. Now another way that you could think about that is, what do you think of when you think of greater? Do you think of shading above or below? Greater, I think of up. So I can draw a line from each of my points going up, and that shows me the direction we are going to shade. You must have the shading as part of your answer. So let's try it again. What is the y-intercept and what is the slope? The y-intercept is 2 and the slope is -3. And we can say -3 over 1, right? So let's graph that. I'm starting up 2 for my y-intercept. For my slope, I'm going to go down 3 because it's negative, but we always start by going to the right. So I'm going down 3 over 1, down 3 over 1, and down 3 over 1. One more will fit. And then I can also go backwards, so go up 3, back 1, and up 3, back 1. Okay. Will this be a solid or dashed line? This one has the equals to in it, so it is actually a solid line. And what that means is that even points on the line will be a solution to the inequality. If you have a dashed line, that isn't true. All right, so let's pick our test point. I'm going to pick the point 0, 0 again. I really like any points you can choose that's on that y-axis, okay? Now, pay attention. Is 0, 0 above or below the line? It's below, okay? Very, very important that you see that. So let's go plug in our point. So again, our point is 0, 0, okay? So I'm going to plug in my x and y values into my inequality. So we're going to say 0 is less than or equal to negative 3 times 0 plus 2. So this cancels. I get 0 less than or equal to positive 2. Is that true? Yes. So I can shade the side where that line is. Now, this is also a less than. When you think of less than, do you think of up or down? I think of down, which is the same as below. So from any point on the line, we would shade below. Then that shows me what side of the line I want to shade, so I can shade it in. So any point on this side of the line would satisfy that inequality. Let's test one on the other side just so you can see what happens. So let's say we pick the point 0, 5. Let's pick that one right there. 0, 5. Okay, it's on the side of the line that we obviously didn't shade. So this is my x value, this is my y value. So I'm going to plug them into that same inequality. Oops. Okay, so my y value is 5. Negative 3 times 0 plus 2. Again, negative 3 times 0 is just 0. So 5 is less than or equal to 2. Is that true? No. So it is not part of the solution. So it should not be in your shaded area, which it's not. Our shaded area is the other side. Let's try one more. Why don't you go ahead and try this one on your own? So let's start with our y-intercept. It's 1. And what's our slope? -1, or we can say -1 over 1. And just looking at this, can you tell if it's going to be a dashed or solid line? Dashed. So I can start going up 1. That's my y-intercept. Then my slope is -1, so we're going down 1 over 1. Over and over and over. And up 1, back 1. Perfect. And we said this was going to be a dashed line. So just make sure that it's not 100% connected. Like that. Okay, now let's talk about our shading. Is it going to shade above or below? So first of all, what symbol is this? That is a less than. When you think of less, would you think of above or below? I think of below, down, right? Fewer. So from every point that I graphed, I'm going to draw an arrow going straight down. Do you see how those lines are along the lines that were already on my graph? They're just going straight down. And that shows me I'm shading this side of my line. You could also pick a test point. If I pick the test point 0, 0, because that's my favorite, really anything where your y coordinate is 0, or your x coordinate is 0, I'm sorry, is going to make this super easy for you. So instead of y is less than negative x plus 1, I'm going to say 0 is less than negative 0 plus 1. So really we're just saying 0 is less than 1. Is that true? Yeah. So that should be in my shaded area, and it is. Let's look at these last two special cases. So if we look at this one, y is greater than or equal to 4, first of all, this is a special case line. We don't have an x in there at all, right? This is 0 or undefined slope. This is a 0 slope, so our y-intercept is still 4, but our slope is 0. And just by looking at the symbol, would you say that this is going to be a dashed or solid line? It is a solid line. We've got the equals to underneath, and that's why it's solid. So, would this line be a horizontal or vertical line? This is going to be a horizontal line. We're going to go to where the y-intercept is. And then remember, this is on the y-axis, so our line is going to be parallel to the x-axis, like this. Then we need to figure out if it's going to be above or below. So let's think about this. On which side of all of this line would our y-coordinates be greater than 4? Would that be above the line or below the line? Above the line. Remember, greater than, we think of up. So I could draw my lines going up. And that's where I shade. What if it's an x is less than 2? This time there is no y-intercept, but there is an x-intercept of 2. Do you see how there's no y in the equation? Remind me, is this a 0 slope or an undefined slope? This is undefined, which means that I'm going to have a vertical line. And is this line going to be dashed or solid? It is going to be dashed. So I'm going to go to where my x-intercept is 2, right here, and I'm just going to draw a vertical dashed line. Might be better if you have a ruler. There we go. And then these ones, same idea, except it's really hard to see above and below, but I think you could get the idea of greater than or less than, right? Our symbol this time is a less than. Remember, if we straighten this out, it can make an L. But you can also turn the symbol into an arrow. So which way are we going to shade? This way, which technically would be below, because everything over on this side is less. The x-coordinate is less than 2. And that's it. Try some practice problems.